Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 241, where we will try to talk about the WNBA without, I don't know. You're calling people out their name, flipping out, saying, people only know you because of me. We're going to try to do that. I don't know if it can be done at this point. I don't know. It seems like we have all of a sudden found the sports topic that can't be discussed without people losing their goddog minds. I understand there are some racial and gender angles to it, but ultimately this is just a sports story that is pretty. When you get through all the morass, it's not that complicated. Yet there is a whole lot of projection of people's own stuff being put on what's happening right now in the WNBA, and my, oh my, is it causing landmines for so many of my colleagues. Damonza, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Crazy weekend. WNBA is popping though.
Crazy weekend. And and by the way, since this weekend, I think the Indiana Fever have played 3 more games. My God, who set this schedule? I understand you want to get eyeballs on Caitlin Clark, and shout out, by the way, because according to the folks that monitor this type of stuff, 1.5 million people watch that Fever Sky game, which makes it the 4th highest rated WNBA game in the last 22 years. So people are into this. So I understand the WNBA saying we got to, put Caitlin Clark on this world tour, but they had played, as of Sunday, as many games in the previous 9 days as the Aces had played all season. Think about that. They had played as many games in 9 days the Aces played all season. So we are going to start with that. But first, we must get to what missed the cut. So here is what missed the cut. The Stanley Cup final is set. More on that in a moment. KD working on his jumper in the club. I just like Kevin Durant more and more every day. And the Bills sign an Olympic wrestler. Damonza, much like last year, I have a crisp, clean $100 bill right here. This will become yours, digitally at least, via Zelle, if you can name the 2 teams in the Stanley Cup final.
The Stanley Cup is that's hockey.
Yeah, that's hockey.
So we're gonna go with the Oilers. And
against who?
The Oilers against the I honestly don't know another hockey team.
You're not
Brewers maybe? It's not.
Okay, you were thinking Bruins. Brewers is
Bruins,
baseball.
Bruins,
It's also not the Bruins.
Is.
So I was certain you were cheating because Oilers is correct. But the fact that you weren't cheating and got Oilers, it's Oilers-Panthers.
So just
the Panthers beat the Rangers. It's 50. You know what? It's 50. So I'm just going to rip this right in half and send you so it's $50. I'll give it to you. Good job by you. All right, Damonza, let's get right to the story that is sweeping the sports world, which is a kind of hard foul. God, people. Everyone take a breath. But go ahead.
Chennedy Carter of the Chicago Sky obviously fouled the crap out of Caitlin Clark. And it sparked a lot of controversy. People were saying that her teammates didn't back her up. They're complaining about the reffing. Caitlin Clark doesn't seem to make a big deal about it. She seems to be rolling with the punches, quite literally. But what are your thoughts? Why is everybody else making a big deal on it?
Okay, and now there's more to it, which is Angel came out yesterday and said, people aren't watching just because of her. This all started in the national championship game a year ago, and there are so many things happening here that I find wildly fascinating. So what you have is 2 groups colliding, and it is creating this vortex of uncomfortable takes. So one group is not familiar with how sports media covers sports and athletes. So that group, for instance, yesterday saw Angel Reese gave a quote where she seemingly ends the quote with, they're not just watching because of one person. They're watching because of me too. And the quote ends. And it's like, wow. Well, I mean, that's kind of, more me than we. What about your teammates? What about the other rookies? But then she went on immediately after that, if you extend the quote another 10 seconds, to say, there's a lot of us, and talk about the rookie class as a whole, kind of Caitlyn excluded, it would appear. That's fine. And folks are like, oh my God, look at how you're doing this, black woman, misquoting her, doing this. And it's like, listen, there is a lot of race involved here, and we will get to it. But I promise it is not a woman thing or a black thing. It is a sports media thing where if you give the internet and sports aggregators a piece of a quote that can be used against you, it will be used against you. That is unfair. It is not great. It is why you have to be very careful of the sports media aggregation site or accounts. But that is not unique to Angel Reese. That is simply unique to social media and how sports are covered. You then have, so there's these folks who don't really know how the sports media sausage is made that think things are wildly unfair, which they might be wildly unfair, but it's kind of just how sports are covered in 2024. Then you have a group of people that feel like, in my opinion, I should basically be able to have any opinion on this topic, and you should thank me for having an opinion on the topic, because I usually don't talk about this topic, so the fact that I'm talking about it means if you're criticizing me for talking about it, you're in the wrong, because I should just be getting credits and plaudits and flowers for talking about it. And those two groups are going to rip each other apart. And I'm going to stand on the sideline and say, shit, it just seems to me like something we have seen before in sports. Now, again, there is a clear racial dynamic to this that must be acknowledged. So I'll do that before we even get to the part that I've seen in sports before, which is there is a fraught racial history between the WNBA players at large and the media and sponsors of the league. This is a overwhelmingly black league that a wildly disproportionate amount of its most famous players ever have been white players. What is also true, if we are being honest, is if you were to say what percentage of the W is black and got that number, and then and what percentage is white, and then said, okay, of the 20 greatest players ever, what percentage is black, what percentage is white, for reasons that are, I would imagine, quite complex, and I have some theories on, but I don't really have time or interest to get into them right now. There is compared to the league as a whole, there is a disproportionate amount of the greatest players of all time that are white women. And so there is so that is true. What also is true is amongst the greatest players of all time, the white women have seemed historically to been marketed and pushed and gotten more media love than the black women, which is why Paige Beckers a few years ago at the ESPYs, I thought, gave an amazing speech when she won Female Athlete of the Year, when she essentially got up there and said, when she was playing at UConn before she tore up her knee, saying, hey, I appreciate all of this, but this is a league that has been mostly built by black women, and people that look like me consistently get these awards, and we need to be aware of that and try to maybe right those wrongs moving forward, even though Paige Beckers was deserving of the award and one of the baddest college basketball players of her era before she got hurt and this new group of players came along. And by the way, Paige is still one of the great college basketball players. She played Caitlin in the Final Four. That was the push-off game, the bad foul call at the end of the game, or the illegal screen, I think it was. And she'll continue to be awesome next year. So, there is all of that going on here, right? And that is real. It is real that Caitlin being portrayed as the conquering hero and Angel being portrayed as the villain last year in college basketball, even though Angel's team won, there was a lot of race to that. You cannot act like the LSU team, overwhelmingly black, Bayou Barbie, Flaugier, who's a rapper, and then the mostly lily white Iowa team, that there wasn't racial dynamics at play. Of course there were. And we can be adults and acknowledge it. We could, just like, by the way, I think that Gabe Goodwin, our esteemed head of Blue Duck, who runs this podcast, I'll give you a cross-sport, cross-gender example. Once upon a time, Peyton Hillis was on the cover of Madden. And I bring up Gabe because I think it was his fault. For reasons I don't totally remember, I think Sports Nation was involved. I think it was Gabe's fault. I blame Gabe for this. But the reason Peyton Hillis, a slightly above average running back for the Cleveland Browns, was on the cover of Madden, is because he's a white running back. And it was cool and it was an oddity. And here is the other thing that maybe because Damonza, so here's my theory on this. I think that maybe I am kind of in the ultimate place of privilege when it comes to talking about these topics, because I don't feel an additional pressure. If I were black, I think there is an understandably pressure, and tell me if you agree or disagree with me on this. I think there is a pressure on black commentators that, man, there is so much obvious racism in the world and in sports and everywhere, that when a racial topic comes up, I don't want to seemingly be adding to it or be on the wrong side of it because I have an important responsibility or voice in the space. Like, does that, I'm not explaining that exactly right. Does what I'm saying
what you're saying
make sense to you?
That makes sense.
So
you try
I
to,
think
like,
that
thread stay in the middle, kind of.
I am in a unique spot because, and then I think there's also white commentators who are at times trying to pander, and at times just, obviously overtly on the wrong side of these issues. Black commentators on the wrong side of these issues sometimes too. I am just so confident that I don't think anyone's ever, I think there are a lot of things at one point I will be unfairly accused of. I don't think being racially tone deaf, and I don't think being bigoted when it comes to race or not seeing the different levels of it, I'm just not worried about it. I think I have my entire life's body of work and track record, and I think I also don't have that additional pressure, like internal pressure, because I am a white guy talking about this stuff. So I recognize that's something of a place of privilege, but I just kind of call it how I see it. And I see a lot of race involved here. And people seem to be stubbing their toe on that curb, which is preventing them to getting to the obvious thing that is happening amongst the players, which is this girl is richer than all of us, more famous than all of us, is getting more pub and attention than all of us, and she's a white girl. And you know what? That's bullshit. Our team beat her team in the national championship game, and she is the one that became super famous. With all that said, it's not because it is the other piece of it is she is the best. Of all the rookies, she's the best. Of the draft class, she's the best. Of the college basketball players last year, she was the best. So it is when LeBron James got drafted, before they even drafted him, when the Cavs won the... Do you know what I'm going to talk about here, Damonza? You're laughing.
Or
are you just laughing because I'm bringing up LeBron?
Go ahead, though.
Well,
it's a good comparison. I get it.
So here's the thing. The Cavs win the draft lottery. They have Ricky Davis and Darius Miles on the team. The team is terrible. That's how they win the draft lottery. Yes. And those guys are like, yeah, man, LeBron can help ride our wave. You know what I mean? He can ride our bandwagon. I don't think a high school kid's going to come in and make a big difference, but we'll see. Those were his teammates. You know why? Because he had just gotten an $80 million deal from Nike that nobody was talking about the Cavs. The Cavs were like, damn it, this is BS. We're better than him. We're older than him. We're more established than him. And there was legitimate jealousy from his own teammates. Now, fortunately, we didn't have to deal with the extra level of race on this one because it was all black guys in the discussion here. I can only imagine what that would have been if all of the LeBron stuff. Well, that's an interesting story.
50
thought
years
exercise.
ago?
LeBron's entire career as exact identical, except he's a white dude. I wonder how so many things would be different, but it wasn't there. That's not complicated. Rookie hazing is not complicated. And hard fouls in sports are not complicated. Now, is it interesting that Aaliyah Boston didn't immediately come to Caitlin Clark's aid? Yeah, it is. That is interesting. It's noteworthy. Is it interesting that Angel Reese stood and applauded? Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think she likes Caitlin. Guess what? She's not supposed to. And this whole idea that everyone should be like feting Caitlin Clark, the other competitors, like, oh, we're all going to make more money thanks to you. We're all getting all these accoutrements. There's that word again. Thanks to you. That is not how athletes work. We would never say that about male athletes. Never. And people might say, oh, well,
don't you think
it's
there's
like
a level of it,
Go ahead,
like, to keep it within the parameters of the game, though? Like the foul that the girl issued to Caitlin Clark was just like, I mean, I think she got a flagrant one for it or whatever, but I think it's like a different level of hate, is what I'm saying.
Yes. So here's the thing. That was out of bounds, but it wasn't wildly out of bounds. Flagrant one is what she should get. Not, more than a regular foul, not enough to be thrown out of the game. Now, do I think the refs missed the boat by not issuing it immediately instead had to be issued retroactively? Sure. But that wasn't like, and making the rounds yesterday was Candace Parker, what she dealt with as a rookie and the big giant melee that happened between her team and the Detroit team when she was a rookie. Guys, so I don't look, and Angel got fouled like that last week and nobody gave a shit. And I understand Angel's frustration with this. So this is again where race must be acknowledged. The Chicago Tribune, again, the newspaper in Chicago, that's where the Chicago Sky obviously are from, Angel's team. In the editorial, about that foul, they say, and I quote, "The foul committed by Chicago Sky guard Chennedy Carter was egregious. Outside of a sporting contest, it would have been seen as an assault." Pipe down, folks. You know what's also an assault outside of a sporting contest? A box out. A contest on a layup. Shut up. And that is race, right? The only thing that gets people all of a sudden flocking to, we must protect this woman, is, a white woman in distress, particularly if it's a non-white person putting her in distress. That is race. And, like, I just feel like we should be able to hold multiple thoughts in our head at once. And I do want to go back to the basketball piece of it. Because I like Angel. And I have supported Angel. You and I had a whole thing on this show when she talked about what she had been going through. I think I was, in comparison to some of the other members of sports media, I think I saw that for what it was better than most. And I really like Angel.
She flip-flopping.
So this is... say it again?
She's flip-flopping. But go ahead.
No, I'm not flip-flopping.
No, not
but
you.
I'm going to make...
Not you. I'm saying Angel Reese is doing a little flip-flopping on her stance. On
well,
she
no,
wants,
I don't even know
that
she's... Listen, I think it's... Here's the thing on that before I give what I was going to say. Folks say they want to be a villain. Nobody does. The only person in the last decade in sports that I've seen that truly wants to be the villain... Do you know who I'm going to say, Damonza?
It's got to be Draymond Green.
No, because he plays the victim.
No,
he says he wants to be the villain, but then he's like, you guys are trying to make it so I'm broke when I'm older. No, Beverly plays the victim too. Dylan Brooks plays the victim. All these guys. Pat Beverly's like, you don't know what they said to me. I shouldn't have thrown the ball, but you don't know what they said. Dylan Brooks is like, call me Dylan the villain. Then he's like, it's a media construct.
Right.
There's only one person who actually wants to be the villain. Luka. Luka actually wants to be the villain. He wants to go in your building, tell you to go bleep yourself, swagger, do all of it. Everyone else wants to pick and choose when they're the villain. Right? And it's hard. LeBron tried it for a whole year and then was like, that was miserable. I don't want to do that anymore. Okay? So that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is this. My advice to Angel Reese
does not look at social media at all. But my bad. Go ahead.
I mean, it's too much, hookah smoke in his eyes. Here's my advice to Angel Reese on the basketball court. If you want there to be less attention on Caitlin and more on you, you need to play better. Sorry. It's got to be better. Angel Reese was an outstanding championship level college basketball player who went 7th in the WNBA draft. About where she should have gone. Maybe at this point you can say she should have gone 4th or 5th. She is having, in my opinion, the second best rookie season. Some would say Cameron Brink's having the second best rookie season, 2nd or 3rd. But there is a wide gap between what she's doing and what Caitlin's doing. Just like there is a wide gap between what Caitlin is doing and every other rookie.
She's averaging like 5 more points on more games. Now that I think about it.
Right. So, and Caitlin's biggest weakness right now is her the turnovers are bad, but that was also a problem in college. So I think that's just going to be a problem. But Caitlin right now, it's like, she's shooting 35% from the field and 30% from 3. Well, Angel's a forward shooting 35% from the field. And so she is going through rookie struggles just like Caitlin is. Caitlin's numbers this year, 15.5 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists on 35-30 splits. Angel, who's been the second best rookie, is 10.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2 assists on 35% from the field. Cameron Brink, who's been, the second or third best rookie, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 47% from the field, and really good defense. And then Rickea Jackson, 10 points per game, 3 rebounds, no assists because she's a big, on 49% from the field. Thing is this, if folks want to make the argument that Caitlin Clark is getting undue attention, somebody in her rookie class got to go out there and outplay her. And that hadn't happened. Just hadn't. And that is, again, that's a sports conversation. And I'm not going to act like I had this, I said everything exactly perfectly here, and that, and also, by the way, we should wait and see how Camila Cardoso ends up looking. She's only played one game after missing the beginning of the season. In her first game, she played really well. 11-6 on 5 of 7 from the field. So we'll see how she does. But the fact of the matter is, guys, there is what is so cool about this is we have another sport now that enough people are following that it is a national conversation. And I implore folks who have been following the WNBA for years, don't be WNBA hipsters. Please. Don't be the fan of the band that loved it before it, was going on worldwide tours, and then shitty towards the new fans and gatekeep and be like, well, if you weren't here shooting with me in the gym, guys, it's better. The sport growing is better for everyone. Okay? I do ask that. I also ask the Johnny-come-latelys. And I think I am a cross between the two groups. I think I obviously watched and followed more WNBA than the average person, but that's because I'm in sports for a living. But I also was not, I knew enough about the WNBA that last year I placed a very significant bet before the season started on the Aces to win the title, and I placed a very small bet on the Aces to go undefeated for the season, but not enough to act like I am, that I'm a WNBA League Pass subscriber, and I've never talked about it on the TV show, aside from maybe a segment or two in 7 years, until this rookie class headlined by Caitlin. So I'm a bit of both, right? But I beg, just like I don't want the folks who were always fans to gatekeep, I would like the folks who are new to the party to not act as if, A, they are experts on everything WNBA related, and B, please do not act like everyone needs to give us credit because we arrived at the party. There is this weird thing going on where it is like, well, now that I am talking about your sport, I am doing you a favor, and therefore I should be above criticism for my takes on it. Nah, man. Just like I said, when Diana Taurasi during the NCAA tournament, I thought had a bad take on Caitlin and the WNBA. By the way, Diana looks like she might have been more right than I was on that. And what I said was a bad take. It looks like maybe I was wrong and she was right. It is and I said, and I disagreed with Diana's take. And it felt like a lot of people disagreed with it, but were almost afraid to say they disagreed with it the way they would if it were Kendrick Perkins discussing Victor Wembanyama. It's like, nah, man. Everybody's grown here. Everybody can fend for themselves to a degree. We don't need to be overly protective of Caitlin Clark. She's a badass, fierce competitor that also, despite a grueling schedule, seemingly not a very good team, and massive scrutiny, is handling herself fine. I say seemingly not a very good team, Damonza, because they're the number one pick in back-to-back years. They're 2-9.
No,
like,
I
you
laugh
know what
because,
I mean?
You said seemingly.
Well, but now, let me give one other prediction that I know is going to end up being a classic category 2. Caitlin Clark, from this moment forward, is going to have bananas numbers. So here's why. So they have had multiple back-to-backs. They have played 11 games. No other teams played more than 9. The Aces have played 6. Because of that, the rest of the way, here they don't have a single back-to-back. They have massive... So they play on the 7th, the 10th, the 13th, the 16th, the 19th, 21st, 23rd, 27th, 30th, 2nd, 6th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 17th. Then a month off because of the Olympics, an Olympic team that we don't know if Caitlin Clark's going to make or not. And then again, in September and August, a relatively light schedule compared to the field because they already had their tough part. So they're going to have more rest. They also have already played you play the Liberty 4 times. They've played them 3 already. The Liberty might be the second best team in the league. You play Connecticut 4 times. They've played them twice already. Connecticut's a top 3 team in the league. So the schedule's going to get softer. She's got her legs underneath her. She's going to have more rest. And she's going to ball out. And by the way, I hope the rest of the rookie class does as well. I'm rooting for all these girls. But we've got to be able to acknowledge, of course, there is a racial dynamic here. Of course, there is a very typical jealousy dynamic here that would exist no matter the races, but is heightened because of the racial dynamics here. And of course, there is just some sports competitiveness here, which is Angel Reese thinks she's better. She beat her in the national championship. Then Caitlin got her get back the next year, but didn't win the national championship. And Angel, they are going to be rivals. And that is great for the sport. All right. Did I manage to do that without saying I made anyone famous or calling anyone a bitch? I think I did. Wow. Did that... Give me a medal for it. Quick break. Right back. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? All right, and after a nice half hour on the WNBA and racial and gender dynamics in America, and a little slight media criticism, I suppose, let's get right to the NBA Finals. Damonza, go ahead.
Yeah, we are just a few days away from your large Slovenian son being able to prove you correct, back up all those words you've been speaking for the last couple of weeks. But it's weird because Boston's at minus 220. This is not very weird. And Dallas is at plus 185 to win the series. Do you think Vegas has that wrong, considering the path that the Mavericks had to take to get there and the Boston Celtics?
Yeah, so I do think Vegas has this wrong. This would be the third biggest finals upset since the merger. The biggest upset, famously, 04 Pistons over the Lakers. The second biggest upset, a weird one, the 19 Raptors over the Warriors, but KD popped his Achilles, Clay blew out his knee. So that one, I don't want to say you can throw it out, but that wasn't a traditional upset. You know what I mean? Like unless you think the Raptors were going to beat the full-strength Warriors. And then this. Fact of the matter is this. Since the trade deadline, the Mavs have had the best defense in basketball, and with this starting lineup, they have played this year on a 65-win pace, which is what the Celtics played all year, a 64-65 win pace. So I do think that this series is relatively even, and if it's relatively even, and one team has an all-time legendary player, and the other team has Jason Tatum, then I'm going to go with the team with the all-time legendary player.
Did you say the series is relatively even, or did you say it is relatively even?
I said I do. I do think the series is. I do think the series is relatively even. I think their regular season records would say it's not 64 wins versus 50 wins. But I don't look at the Mavs as that team. I look at the Mavs as the team they were once they got Gafford and PJ, and once Lively, you know what I mean, got more reps in his rookie season. So and early in the season they dealt without having Kyrie. I just really like the Mavs in this spot. And maybe I'll end up being wrong. And people are now, yesterday the internet got mad at Zach Lowe for saying I thought something obvious, which is Jason Tatum is somewhere between the 6th, 7th, 8th best player in basketball. That is not an indictment. It is just the truth. That now, can you win the title with that? Yeah. Is it super rare? Yes. So, now, does the best player always win? No. If that were the case, LeBron would be 10 for 10 in the finals. So, obviously, the best player... I think that's a little, that doesn't always work with team sports, but it does work more often than not in the NBA. However, typically, if the other team's got demonstrably and clearly the best player, you need to have massive team advantage. And Vegas thinks the Celtics do. I do not. I think that there is a huge gap between Luka and Tatum. I think there is, right now, a minimal gap between Brown and Kyrie. Now, the next 3 best players in the series are Celtics, Kristaps, Drew, and Derek White. But the next 3 best players after that are Mavs in PJ, Gafford, and Lively.
Say Lively?
No, I'm leaving somebody out. Derek Jones Jr. could be on there, but that's right. And so and then you add to it what to me is a pretty clear, and maybe Celtics fans disagree with me here, coaching advantage for the Mavericks, and the fact that the Celtics have been hit or miss at home, while the Mavs have been absolute killers on the road, and I like the Mavs in this spot. And so I think plus 185 is crazy. I also think it's very on the board. Boston wins game 1, which is why I might wait to bet the series, because if it's plus 185 right now, it'll be like plus 300 or plus 260 after Boston wins game 1 if they win game 1, but I also might just pull the trigger and bet it beforehand. But I'm going to roll with this being Luka's moment. And that I don't think the Boston crowd is going to get to Kyrie, but I do think the Boston crowd is going to get Luka going. I think the Boston crowd going after Luka going after Kyrie is going to be good for Luka. I am curious, Damonza, however, your feelings going into this finals versus 2 years ago when your Celtics were playing the Warriors. And I have other questions Celtics related for you. But your feelings going into the finals since the Celtics are your team.
A lot more comfortable with them going into the series against the Mavericks. This is the one team out of the West. I would have been more afraid to play Minnesota. And the Mavericks are, they're coming off. They had to play the Timberwolves, who openly came out and said that they were tired. Celtics aren't tired.
Yeah.
Celtics are deeper. I think that the Celtics can get this done in 6. Just way too deep. Kyrie and Luka, I don't think are going to be enough to win in a 7-game series. I think it's just too much. I think that the hookah and the cigarettes will catch up to Luka at some point. And this is the furthest Luka's ever been, obviously, right?
Yep. Yeah, he made the conference finals 2 years ago, but this is, for everyone on the Mavs, except for Kyrie, this is their first finals. Meanwhile, for everyone on the Celtics, except for Kristaps, they've been here before, right?
Right.
And so I do think that plays in your favor to a degree. Actually, I don't think Al Horford's been here before, but he's played in a million playoff games because he was with the Celtics and then left. And then came. Oh no, he was there 2 years ago.
No, he was there when they played him in the.
He was there.
The Warriors. Yeah.
You're right. He was there, then left to Philly, then came back when they played for the season. So yeah, everyone but Kristaps essentially has been there. Drew hasn't been there with Boston, but he's been there with Milwaukee, obviously. Right. Here's the. Gosh darn it! I was going to ask you another question.
You had another question about
but
Boston.
Real quick, you mentioned Luke and Kyrie won't be enough. One thing that would be a little concerning for me if I'm Boston is this. The Mavs did beat the Thunder with Kyrie averaging 16 points per game. So they beat the number 1 seed in the West in 6 games and could have won that thing in 5. And Kyrie was, 16 points a game in that series. Now, do they need Luka to be brilliant? Obviously. But Luka is looking healthier as the playoffs go on. And that is my biggest prediction of this series is you, Damonza, are going to leave midway through this series, have a visceral dislike for Luka. From the whining and the preening and the screaming and lighting your team on fire.
On alert for he cries. He cries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. After getting calls too. Not just after not getting calls. He gets angry when he gets calls, when he doesn't get calls, the whole nine. What's your other question? Go ahead.
Do you think that Luka will leave this series the villain that he wants to be? Or you think he wants to be?
Well, yeah. Oh, that's a good Photoshop. I like that. That's Luka's Bane with a hookah. Yeah. I mean, I think he is going to be, absolutely hated by the Celtic crowd, and I can't wait for it. What's your next follow-up?
If you think that Boston will win the finals, is it a smart bet to bet Tatum at -115 or Brown at +650 for Finals MVP?
Oh, listen, at those odds, I like Brown way, way, way better. Now, I am curious who's going to have.
I get that.
Go ahead. Go.
No, I get that. I understand that. I was just with. I think if the Celtics win the finals, it won't be because Jaylen Brown was the best player. No.
Well, he just won conference finals MVP. Now, maybe, listen, you might be right, but I don't know
what's going on with Jason Tatum, but I think he's going to turn it on at some point.
Well, and he was good in the conference finals, to be clear. It just Jaylen Brown hit the shot that forced overtime in game 1, and their numbers were close, and he was more efficient. I am curious, though, we'll talk about this more on Thursday, who's going to be Luka's primary defender, because Drew is not big enough. It's going to have to be Tatum or Brown, and whomever it is, that is going to take a lot out of them energy-wise on the offensive end. Now, he'll probably hunt, switches and stuff anyway, but that'll be interesting to see. I also think, we'll talk about it more on Thursday. How Kristaps is going to look when he comes back is one of the biggest storylines of this series. All right, let's move on because we have Thursday. We'll do like an all-final show on Thursday. Go ahead.
Fair. So Justin Jefferson just signed a record $140 million extension with Minnesota. So that's very similar to Jordan Poole money. So obviously, Justin Jefferson, he's the best wide receiver in the league, some might say. So you got to give him that money. Mm-hmm. But if for you, isn't it great to have a team like the Chiefs who doesn't have to go out there and spend all that money for a wide receiver? Here's the thing. Nobody else has Mahomes, so I understand. And Justin Jefferson deserves the money. But I do think that and I've talked about it on this pod before, and I will continue to, we are going to reach something of a market correction. College football keeps producing ready-to-go wide receivers. And they are producing less ready-to-go offensive and defensive linemen. So I think you are going to see, maybe not for Justin Jefferson caliber players, but for that next caliber wide receiver, the really good guy, but isn't, top 5 in the league, smart teams say, we can get 85% of that production by a guy in the draft for 10% of the salary. We're just not paying. We are not. The Chiefs have basically said, we're going to draft and develop wide receivers and corners because that's what college football is producing.
and we are going to pay our offensive and defensive linemen along with the quarterback. Wilds had an interesting thought, which was under the current salary cap structure, can you basically just have $50 million for your quarterback and your wide receiver one and split it up as you see fit? So, like for the Vikings, you have Justin Jefferson on the rookie deal, on the record-setting deal, and then a rookie quarterback. For the Dolphins right now, you have Tyreek and Waddle on these crazy deals, but they haven't paid Tua yet. The Cowboys have Dak on this huge deal, waiting to pay CD. Maybe when they pay CD, do they then not bring back Dak? The Bills, Josh Allen makes a ton of money. They trade Stephon Diggs. The Chiefs, all the money goes to Mahomes. They draft receivers. It was an interesting thought by Wilds that I hadn't really considered on that level. But now the Eagles are trying to do everything. Pay Devontae, pay AJ, and pay Jalen Hurts, but they're kind of borrowing a lot from the future. The Niners, you paid Debo, you seem hesitant to pay Ayuk, and Purdy makes nothing. And so I get why the Vikings would do it, but I also think some of these wide receiver contracts are not going to age well. All right, let's play a quick game of this or that.
Yes, it's time for this or that. We got Bears Hard Knocks. Huge pull for them. Caleb Williams and the Bears will be featured on Hard Knocks this year. The NFL putting Caleb in the spotlight right away is genius or too soon?
Oh, I think it's genius. I think he's charismatic. I think he'll be excellent. I think that he will become instantaneously another star of the league. So I love it. I think it's great. Next.
No better team for that, right?
Yeah, I love it.
After the Rangers were eliminated, New York men's sports teams have now gone a combined 100 seasons without a championship. But you got a nice graphic up there for those watching on YouTube.
Oh, I love that. That's good. That's a great graphic.
But they still have Jalen Brunson. New York sports is hopeless or hopeful?
Oh, I think it's hopeful because the Knicks just had their best season in my opinion, in a quarter century. The Rangers, it seems like, were good, and the Yankees might win the World Series this year. So I think hopeful. Next.
Dallas is having a great year for sports. The Rangers won the World Series. The Stars made the conference finals in the NHL, and the Mavs are in the NBA finals. So what about Dallas? Cowboys will join the party soon or never?
Well, it's not going to be soon. I don't want to say never, but it would be later rather than soon. The Cowboys are in the midst of, they kind of took their shot with the way Dak's contract was structured and the guys they had.
Sooner.
Well, never's not the right answer. So then I guess the answer's soon. Oh. So I guess I'll say soon. No, I'm not. I don't have to pick one. The answer is later. It's there. The answer is not never, but it's also not soon.
He doesn't want to be clipped. Yesterday on TV, you said your top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL are Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Stroud, with the 5th spot up in the air. Nick's 5th best quarterback is Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert.
There's none of the above. I'd probably go Caleb, but if you guys don't want me to put a rookie, I'll say Stafford. And I know people think I'm being disrespectful to Lamar. I'm just being honest. Sorry.
And the game.
You're
not picking either this
What do you
or
mean
that.
the game?
You just went outside of the this
well,
or that.
You guys. Well, I'm sorry. You guys put Justin Herbert on there instead of Matt Stafford. That's not my fault. Put a better name or put Trevor. All right, next.
Syracuse alumni Carmelo Anthony is joining the ownership group for an expansion of the basketball team in Australia. He said it is part of a journey to one day becoming an NBA owner. Could your fates be intertwined? Nick will be an avid fan or a general manager.
Avid fan. I had an opportunity to become a part of a ownership group of a lower level Italian basketball team that I could have kind of been part of the general manager front office, kind of group for. I don't know if I told you about this, Damonza. This is like 18 months ago. But I didn't have, and I thought I would want to do it, but then I thought about it. I just didn't have the time to actually, You know what I mean? Am I going to be scouting like lower level international prospects? I just wasn't. And so maybe
cool.
in another life. Yeah, it was cool. And I probably should have followed up on it more than I did, but I didn't. And in another life, maybe, but right now, I just avid fan. All right, next.
All right, so it took Jason Kelce less than 3 months in retirement to start picking fights. And his first enemy, Big Soap. So he's got a thing against showers.
Yeah, Jason Kelce wrote, all of you have been fed diabolical lies, washing every crevice of your bodies and hair all the same. All the time is somehow better or healthier. Any dermatologist not in bed with Big Soap will agree. Hot spots are all that's necessary and actually leads to cleaner, healthier skin. This is really I'm going to go ahead and say, we started the show talking race. We might end the show talking race. This is also a Two Americas thing. There is a real racial dichotomy about how often you need to, scrub like your calves versus whether or not when you're in the shower, as Jason Kelce put it, you wash hot spots and just kind of let soap and water and gravity take care of the rest. What it is, go ahead, Damonza.
So the Jason Kelce or Big Soap was the this or that, but that's not something that you want to hear from a guy like Jason Kelce.
A big football player?
Yeah, dude.
Listen, he's not saying he's not showering. What he's saying is he is washing directly his underarms and his, genitals, and that the rest of it, soap and water will take care of itself. And what I'm telling you is, I don't think Jason Kelce is the only person out there with that opinion. I do think that happens to be more of an opinion held in the white community than the non-white community. I also think that Jason Kelce, there are certain things, like there's also like a real racial division about, do you just use the bar of soap to clean yourself, or do you use a washcloth or wash towel? There's a lot of things that, again, we don't talk about in polite company.
Are you a bar of soap or are you
I'm not talking about how I shower or how I bathe, because I understand better than Jason Kelce. There's certain things better just keep to yourself. It's just no wins in this. There's just there's no upside in this. I think Jason Kelce has taken a lot of arrows for an opinion a lot of people share, but they're not brave enough to say it. I'm not saying where I stand. I've also been married to your mother for 15 years, or married 11 years, with your mother 15 years, so I maybe have adjusted whatever my potential previous bathing habits were. Who knows? All I know is it's no one's damn business. Quick break. Get to your questions next. What's right? Hey, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? Damonza, we're back. We didn't even know it. We weren't paying attention. All right, let's get to the listener questions right now. Go ahead.
Rap Stallion, I knew you were going to say Luka is a villain. Come on, man. Talking about how everybody else is a victim, but somehow not Luka. Luka's top 3 winners in the league. Whiners in the league. Sorry, always playing victim.
Well, listen, I think Luka whines to the refs a lot. I do not think he plays victim to the media. That's what I was talking about. Those other guys play victim to the media. Luka doesn't. Luka on the court's always whining, but he wants to be the villain. Go ahead.
I think there is a curve when you consider that Luka's like, he's for, like, I don't want to, like, I guess it sounds kind of weird, but he's not. I don't think he was like brought up in like the whole, like, the way media and sports is done over here. So I think he's still a giant baby, but he's just a foreign giant baby. Like, he's not like...
Okay, he whines to the refs on the court, but he is... I don't think he plays victim in the post-game press conference or off the court. Just my opinion. All right, let's go to Kevin Gillen.
Kevin Gillen said, Damonza needs his new shades. If Nick doesn't pony up soon, the comment section is going to pass the hat for a pair of pit vipers.
So I looked up what pit vipers are. Damonza, Google Pit Viper sunglasses, because I didn't know what those were called. I didn't know that's what those were. I don't even know what to compare them to. I think they're like the sunglasses Hulk Hogan used to wear, like in the late 80s or early 90s, and I think some baseball players wear them. I don't think those would look good on Damonza. I don't think those are really his look. I do need to get you a pair of nice shades, though. That part's true. All right, let's go to Eric Hua.
I thought you had them, and you just hadn't given them.
No. This guy is saying the
sunglasses for you. I'm just, yeah.
Oh, I do have them. You're right. No. I actually do have them. That part's, I wasn't even thinking about it. That part is correct. Yeah. I do have them. I just haven't given them to you. Go ahead.
So Eric Hua said, I understand it's more compelling to talk about what if the Celtics lose, but are there talking points for if they win? Or is it more of a what missed the cut?
No, if they win, we'll spend a lot of time on it. I think leading the TV show with a discussion about that today. I don't think they're going to win. And I have not been that interested in their meandering walk to the finals through 3 okay teams without their best player. I know people Celtics fans might not like that. Sorry, I just haven't been. And so let's see how the series plays out. I promise if they're winning, they will get their credit. But right now, I'm just not that interested in it. I'm just not, and I don't think they're going to win. All right, next.
-4-2 asked, who would benefit most from a Finals MVP, Luka, Kyrie, or Tatum?
Tatum would benefit the most from it, because he would then say, "What more do you want from me, guys?" So Tatum would benefit the most from it, but I think from a legacy perspective, it is. No, Tatum actually. The answer is Tatum. Because I think Luka gets one eventually. Oh, we had Pit Vipers on set? What are the odds of that? Wow.
No, what are the odds?
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe those shades. Well, I mean, that's unbelievable. Maybe those shades do look good on you.
I like it.
All right, Damonza. Go to 100 overalls question.
100 overall Batman Braun. What a name. A question for Nick. What exactly does Lamar need to do to be a top 5 quarterback?
I mean, I don't know. Not every single year of the worst game of his season in the playoffs. Sorry.
Wait, what'd you say? What did you say?
Every year of his career, he has had his worst game of the season in the playoffs. Every single year of his career. Sorry. I mean, he scored more than 10 points in a home conference championship game. I don't know. I like Lamar. I root for Lamar. If I'm being honest, do I think he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football? I don't. All right, next. Last question, Joel Pinfield.
Joel Pinfield said, Nick, I need a vibe check on your thoughts on the Royals. Big stretch of games coming up.
Huge stretch. Got to take 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. We had lost 6 of 7. It looked like we were going to be slumping going into the biggest series of the year. And then that amazing 9th inning on Sunday got us going in the right direction with a 2-run comeback against the Padres. Now we got to take 2 out of 3 against the Guardians and stay within spitting distance of the AL Central. All right, great show. Great job, Damonza. I'll see you guys on Thursday for a finals gambling show. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish, 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.